to the third video tutorial in this 10-part video tutorial series on the Views module in Drupal 7. I am P.D. Worski, the Toronto website developer specializing in Drupal. And in this video tutorial, we're going to continue right off from our previous video tutorial with a bit of a kink. I actually realized I screwed up and deleted the original view that we created of dog images. And I didn't save the view that we created in the second video tutorial where we used filters to just show Bailey or Susie photos. So what we're going to actually do is create a new view, and I'm going to show you how to create something like this. So we have our first tab, which is dog images, and then you'll see these sub-tabs where we can filter only to see Bailey and then filter only to see Susie. And we'll accomplish that by looking at the menu tabs in views, but then we're also going to continue on and take a look at permissions, headers, footers, and pagers. So that said, let's dive right into it. I actually have to close this window because this view no longer exists. So what we'll do is we'll go to Views, Add a View. And you should all be familiar with this now, so I'm just going to do this quickly. So we'll call this Dog Images. We'll show content of type Dog Pictures. Show the newest first. We're going to create a page called Dog Images. It's going to be Dog Images. It's going to be a grid style of fields because we want to be able to manipulate specifically what's there. We're going to show 10, we're going to use a pager, and I'll walk you through creating a menu link rather than doing it here. So we'll go continue and edit. Now, one thing I didn't, well, I'll show you in a sec, but let's go ahead and we'll add our fields. So you should remember this from previous. We're going to go ahead and we're going to look for the dog name and the image. We add those to the display. We don't want to create a label, because what we're going to do is show this in grid form. Again, we don't want a label, but we want to make sure that we have thumbnails, and this is linked to our content. Now, I'm not sure that I showed you last time, but Views has created these as title dog image. And so when we look at our preview down below, it's a little bit ugly. We've got Susie's name on top, Bailey's name on top. It'd be nicer to have the dog, the picture name, the image, and then the dog name. So beside add, there was a little arrow, so we clicked that and we went to rearrange. Sorry for moving quickly, but I'm going to drag this up. So now I've got title, image, dog. I can go ahead and I can apply. And you'll see that now we've rearranged how those actually appear. And that was actually right here, and just beside the add, go to rearrange. The other thing that's nice about rearrange is you can quickly remove fields here if you're removing a bunch of them, so a little bit of a time saver. There is a way to override, so I'll show you when we add some new pages. We're going to kind of get into things that I didn't anticipate just because of the nature of this video. So that said, we've got our view recreated, we've got a nice look here, and we've got one specific page. But when we go to actually, if we actually go back to our home page, and the reason why this is showing up is probably because it's cached. So if we flush the menu caches, we see that it's gone. Right? So sorry about that. It's a long story, but menus in Drupal are all cached. So when we created when I was working on this video tutorial and created something, it saved the menu tab and it didn't flush the cache, so it's still there. So that's a good sidebar. If you're ever deleting a view and you have menus associated with it, flush the cache, otherwise you're going to have problems. So we have dog images, or dog image, and we actually can't get to that link because there's no menu tab. There's no way for users to know that that actually exists. And sorry, I'm just doing some minor maintenance here. So what we've got to do is we've got to create a tab, and then we do that within the view itself by clicking on this main menu. And what we're going to add is a normal menu tab. Now, I'll explain what this is in a quick second. So we'll just say this is all dog images. Actually, we won't say all. Check out all the dog images on the site. And this will go in the main menu. That's because this default theme that we're using, Bartik, the main menu is what we saw there with the home tab. So we'll go ahead and we'll apply. Now we'll go save. And when we head back and we reload our home page, you'll see that we've got home, dog images. Now sometimes dog images, this menu tab will show up where we don't want it to. So we can actually go into structure, menus, and we know that we're using main menu, so we'll click on main menu. And we could rearrange this here if we wanted dog images to be first or second or whatnot. We can also disable it, if we were doing something. And we can check out what kind of settings we have in here. So we'll see we've got the description, we've got the path, and then a few other things that we can play with, but they're not that pertinent to what we're doing. So going back, this is great. We've got dog images now. However, we know we have two different dogs on the site. We've got Susie and we've got Bailey. So it'd be nice to create another link for those, but we don't want it to show up here on the main because it get a little bit burdensome, a little bit ugly. So it's a good way to look at the other menu tabs that we have available here. So when we click into menu again, you'll see that we have menu tab, we have default menu tab. So rather than try to explain this because it's a little bit confusing, I'm going to walk you through it. But there's also a great tool at api.drupal.org. If you haven't checked that site out, I use it extensively. I think I've mentioned in multiple video tutorials. But you can go to api.drupal.org and in the search, type in hook menu. What that actually is Drupal is, rather than, if you want to make changes to Drupal, like Views is making changes to Drupal, rather than hack up Drupal, you call these different hooks. And Drupal will fire these hooks when it does different things. So when it loads a page, it will call a hook. And so hook menu is created when we're creating the menu table to register different paths on the site. So if you scroll down on hook menu, you get a description of what these normal menu tabs are, what these local tasks are, what these default local tasks are. So you can take a read through that for a little bit further information. But essentially for our purposes, this normal menu tab is essentially what we created. So this kind of menu tab that goes right at the top level of your menu, so for main menu here, we've got it there as images. This menu tab is going to be a subset of that. So rather than show up here beside, it will come down into another area on the page, and there will be menu tabs there. And that's nice because we don't clutter up our main menu navigation, but we also provide users the ability to differentiate between the content that they're looking at. So what we're going to do to take full advantage of that is we're going to add another page. I haven't actually shown you this functionality yet, but essentially when you create a view, you create this kind of database query, and then you can create different pages, blocks, or different ways to show that content. So the first one that we had was our page. So our second one, we're going to also create a page. And when we create a page, we see that we now have two pages. So it's good to give this a name so that we don't confuse ourselves. So this is actually page Susie pictures is what it's going to be. We can go ahead and we can apply. And so we should do the same for here. So rather than page, we should say page all dog images and hit apply. And now we see these asterisks coming up beside the pages because that indicates to us that we have changes that haven't been saved yet. So we changed this display name, we haven't hit save yet, so there's things that we've got to do. And you'll see the brief description there from the Views module itself. So going to page 2, we know that we want to have this as a submenu. So the way that we do that is we provide a path to this, and that path has to share dog images, has to share the first piece of the URL as our original tab, right? So we've got dog images. So any child of that, the child is the terminology that's used, has to have dog images / something. So call this Susie images, and we'll hit apply. Right? So now we've got that path, but we still don't have a tab yet. So what we do is we go into menu, and we're going to choose a menu tab. And so this title is going to be Susie images. Check out only, or check out the images of Susie. Right? And so the menu is going to be our main menu, just like it was previously, and we'll hit apply. Okay, so then that's that one. But just before we save that, we know we only want this to be Susie images. So we're going to accomplish that by adding another filter. So we'll go add to a filter. And this is a new concept. I haven't showed you this yet, but up here it says for all displays. That's not what we want. We want this for this page specifically. right? We're only adding a filter to this page for Susie images. We don't want the filter to apply to the all dog images. So what this is going to do is it's going to override the filters that are used out of the default. So we can go down here, we'll choose content, we'll apply. And this should be familiar with you because we walked through the different filters in the previous video tutorial. And we're going to choose a drop down. And we'll choose Susie. So it's one of Susie. Hit apply. Now we see that we've got the filter for Susie on page Susie pictures, and then on all dog images, we don't have that. So that's exactly what we want. We'll go ahead and we'll save that. Now, barring any difficulties, if we reload our page here, of course. So let's walk through our second one to make sure there's two needed before we go ahead and try to fix that. So let's add another page here. We're going to add this for Bailey pictures. And again, we want to update this. So this will be page Bailey pictures. We'll hit apply. We're going to add another filter. Just like before, this page, and it's going to be, did we miss it? Nope, there we go, dog. You can do a drop down. There's one of Bailey, apply. Okay, remember we've got to choose a path here, so this has to be dog images / Bailey images. We'll go apply. Let's just make sure we've got that dog images. Yep, we're right there. Menu. So it's going to be a menu tab of Bailey images. Check out all photos of Bailey. Main menu. We'll hit apply. Then we're going to save this. Just check out to make sure dog images, yep, we're good. So we will reload this home page. And there we go, we've got our tabs. So the reason why I didn't do the tabs before is because you have to have more than one, apparently. So we're on dog images, we've got all of our dog images, we can click on Bailey images. And then we've got just Bailey as a view, but we also update the breadcrumb. And so that's an interesting thing about the menu tabs when you're doing what are called local menu tabs. The breadcrumb feeds into that, right? So then if I click on Susie images, it's just Susie, and I can go up in the breadcrumb just back to dog images. So that's exactly what these different tabs are. The default menu tab, what that refers to is the first menu tab. So we created a normal menu entry. The default menu tab is a little bit different, so that's you can use that as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll cancel that. So we don't have any changes. So that's the menu entry system. You know, if you're not doing these sub menus, it would have been entirely possible to go to menus, main menu, add a link, and then add a link to dog images from there. You don't have to do it from within the view. And there are pluses and minuses to doing that. Obviously, you know, if we delete the view, you have to clear your caches from the menu there. If you delete the link from the menus table itself, it will update the caches itself. So pluses and minuses. I tend to do it from within the view just because it's nice to have everything together. My recommendation would be to do that, but entirely self-preference. The other thing that's kind of nice, if you're still not getting it, this post by Man Spams, great kind of instructions on how to get to this, and so that's right there for you. And then remember, hook menu. So those are the menu settings. Just taking a look at the permissions. So if we wanted to restrict this, let's say only our site users should be able to see the dog images, we can go ahead and we can do that. So we'll change this. So right now it's at access permission view published content. So that's kind of a broad ranging permission. And if you checked out your permissions table here, you see all the different permissions that you have available. One of which is access content. So it's, you know, whether or not users can see your site. So this is based on a permission. You can also do it on a role or not have any. So the role, let's go ahead and apply that. And then we'll say this is only available to authenticated users. We apply that. But you notice, and I went over it quickly, I apologize. This was just for this page, right? So if we want to do it to all displays, the entire view, we want to go ahead and go all displays except overridden, or we can revert to default. So we'll go to all displays. When we click on page, we see now that Susie's got authenticated user. And if we look at Bailey, authenticated user, right? So we could save that, and that's a way that we can hide our specific views and provide a paid per prescription site and allow users to get some paid content. The other thing that you could do theoretically, if you wanted to, it's a little bit more advanced. I'm not going to show you how to do it, but you could create a module that creates its own permission. And so that could be, let's say that these are, I don't know, top secret products or that kind of thing, right? Create a permission with hook permission, and then that could be specific to whatever you want it to be. And then you could do here is look for that specific permission, check it off, and then only certain users that have that permission would be able to do that. Right, and you could provide that permission, that access in your actual permissions table. So once you create it, it shows up in your permissions table, click it off for a certain role, and then you're good to go. So permissions are kind of straightforward, kind of easy. Hopefully you don't have too many questions about that. The header and footer are kind of treated the same way in views, so we won't look at them individually. We'll just take a look at the header and just know that anything you do to the header, you can also do to the footer. So a cool thing in the newest version of views is this ability to embed a view within this area. So why don't we take a look at that first, and we'll go ahead and we'll hit apply. And so let's say we had a view, let's say this was a product listing page. So we wanted to show all of our products on the front page, but then we had another view that actually showed all of the highlighted or featured products. What we could do is on that view all products page, insert this other view to show those highlighted products as the header. And that's what this enables us to do. This previously you couldn't do out of the box. You had to enable things, you had to write some PHP, kind of got a bit ugly. It's now in there, so that's why I wanted to draw your attention to it, because you see a lot of questions about how do I embed a view within a view, and you couldn't do it in views 2. So if you want to do that, obviously pretty straightforward. Create a label for it, and then you've got it in the header. I'm not going to show you how to do that just because I don't have too many views to use. And I also want to keep this short. So that was the view area. We can also do a nice summary of results. And I'll also check off the text areas so we can take a look at that as well. So the summary for results, thanks for checking this out. Actually, that's stupid because it's only going to be shown administratively, so whatever, don't worry about that. But to display. So what this will do is this displays the text displaying and then a token at start. And so at start is actually the initial record number in the set. And then end, again, another token, and of another token, right? And so we've got a couple other tokens that we could use. So let's go ahead and we'll apply this to see what to take a look at. And then remember we enabled also just to show global text area. So if we wanted to show some kind of text, thanks for checking out our site. These are my docs, right? And then down here you've got the option for filtered, full, and plain text. If you enabled the PHP code module that comes with Drupal core, you'd have PHP here, the ability to write some PHP. So if you're familiar with that, you might want to try that out. It's pretty neat because you can do a quick database query to customize your page. So, it could say, run a database query, pull a username for the specific user logged in, and then use that and display it as, hi, John Smith, thanks for visiting this site. Check out these products, which we specifically chose for you. Right, and then a little bit more personalized, so you're able to do that with PHP code, a bit beyond the perspective of this video tutorial, and you need to enable the PHP code module that comes with Drupal core. So we're going to apply the 2 changes that we've done. Now when we scroll down here, so remember we chose displaying 1 of 5, right? 1 to 5 of 5. Pretty neat little functionality there. Tells users how many total records you have. And then we've got our header text for the global. Thanks for checking out the site. These are my dogs, right? Obviously some grammar problems there. So that's the header. Same thing for the footer, exact same functionality. So no point in checking that out. You can play with it yourself. And lastly, the pager. So what we've done, I'll change this to give you an idea. So it's using a full pager. So let's go with 4 images per page. Right, just so quickly you can get an idea of what's going on here. And so now, because we've chosen 4, we know we have 5 images, I've got a pager down here. First set of results, so 1 to 4 of a total 5 images, right? And so if I go to page 2, I've got the other one, and again, this updates to 5 of 5, right? And the full pager provides me with the ability to go back to the first page and the previous page. So this would be effective if I had, say, 5 different pages. I could go previous or all the way back to the beginning. So that's what that is. So let's take a look and change from full to an output with the mini pager, right? So we'll go ahead and hit apply, right? So mini pager, again, 1 of 2, just the arrows to go to the next page. Don't have the first or last. So that's the difference there. There were a couple other settings that we didn't take a look at when we, So, okay, I'll show you these quickly. So, define a specific number of items. So, again, if you just wanted to show the most recent 5 images, you could do that here by hitting apply. When you do so, it will ask you how many items per page and offset. So, how many do you want to skip? So, you know, if I want to show, I don't want to show the first one because I know I'm going to show the first one in a big highlighted block. And then I'm going to have all my new ones below that. I would offset it by 1, and then my other view would show that most recent big highlighted block. So that's why you would use the offset. And then you've got display all items, right? Pretty basic. And then you've got the full pager. And when you click on the full pager, again, you can do an offset. So if you don't want to show the first couple or whatever, those will be skipped. And I wouldn't worry about the pager ID. And the total number of pages, if you just wanted to, you know, let's say you have 10,000 products, you only want to show the first 1,000, you can do a number of pages there. And then you have some ability to allow the users to manipulate this if you want to expose it, right? So this is all kind of self-explanatory. Users can choose how many products they want to see, right? They can choose an all option and expose an offset if they don't want to show you the first 5 or whatever. So that's the pager. Last thing I wanted to show you, I mentioned it, obviously in more link you can include that. I mentioned it in the previous video tutorial that we could exclude different information. So let's go ahead and we'll do that. I'll show you where it might be a good idea to use it. So author ID, remember we know the author number. So let's go ahead and we'll exclude that from the display. We'll hit apply. This may be a bad example, but regardless, if I go to the text area, right? I can go and I can use replacement tokens from the first row, right? And so replacement patterns, I now have the ability to pull in that UID, right? But what this is just from the first row of results. So what that means is if your author IDs are different for every single person, you'll just get the first one, right? So from the first result. So I know that I've uploaded all my images myself, so it's not a problem to pull in that UID because I'm the only one that's doing this. But let's say you wanted to say, you know, this, thanks for visiting, this site was last updated. You could hide the date as a field and then pull that in here and then show it so that users are like, oh wow, you know, you updated it yesterday, it looks pretty good. We know our site's up to date. So that's where you might want to exclude something and pull it in later. I referenced it before, but never really showed you a good example of how to do that. There was one. So that's it for this video tutorial. Just to recap, you know, we walked through the page settings, and so we created our original menu tab. So when you're here at the home page, you've got dog images. Then we created the subset, right? And those are just tabs themselves, which allow you to subset your images and then also it hooks into the breadcrumb. So from there, we checked out the permissions, then we looked at the header and the pagers, all pretty straightforward. Hopefully I showed you something you didn't know. Other video tutorials should be coming out quickly, so I'm going to try to get 5 and 6 done right away. Leave a comment, let me know if these are helping, and always appreciate the +1 likes. They definitely help out. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video tutorial.